Hi, this is Matthew Regier with my EDL 852 case study, Who Should Create the School's Vision? So the summary of this case can really be split into four main areas. There's the community, there's the school, the committee, and the problem at hand. The community is mostly rural, but there are some changing demographics. There's growing population because it's close to a major metropolitan area, and those changing demographics have led to major growth, about 2% per year. And it's kind of led to a split community, certainly split on the new construction that was proposed. And there was a 53 to 47% vote to approve the new construction of a new middle school. The school itself, the new middle school, is going to be for 6th through 8th graders, mostly staffed by current teachers that are teaching either at the elementary school or the current junior senior high school. And Susan Potter is going to be the new principal of this middle school. And she comes from a suburban middle school where she was previously employed. The committee that Ms. Potter is on is composed of 4 teachers and 4 parents. Helen Burke is the chairperson of the committee. She's the sister of a school board member and actively campaigned for the new school to be built. And the goal of this group, or one of the guiding principles, is that it's going to have a democratic setup, and they're going to seek to reach consensus on all of their decisions. The problem at hand is really that there's some disagreement on how to construct the vision and mission statement. Uh, Ms. Potter has the goal of reaching consensus and the whole group doing that together, while Ms. Burke and many of the committee members seem to want Ms. Potter to just dictate a mission and vision statement and to provide that for them. And really, the problem, I think, at its root is, what does good leadership look like? What does good leadership from Ms. Potter look like, and how can she cause the committee members to follow her effectively? There's not a lot of legality at play here, but there are some ethical questions. There's a community split. The new school has impacted some landowners substantially, while it's probably impacted the townspeople less because they own less land and will have fewer property taxes. So the landowners will want and deserve a voice, and I think that's an ethical issue that needs to be considered here. And then Helen Burke has some ethical pieces on her end. As the sister of a school board member, she has some knowledge that maybe other community members or community members would not. She's a very active community member, and she's a known commodity, which as an incoming principal is important. She's known among the staff, and she has rapport with many of her peers. So she certainly has some sway in how this decision goes. So the issue at hand, yes, it is about the mission and vision, but I think more than that, it's about whether facilitating a collaborative process is truly effective leadership. Uh, can you really, the phrase might go lead from the back. I think it's more leading from the middle and being a part of that process. But is facilitating collaboration really effective leadership as we look to form a mission and a vision statement? So a summary of the facts here. The people involved: Helen Burke, Susan Potter. Dan Kelby was the PE teacher who has some dreams, but doesn't really think it would be realistic for us all to consider our dreams as we go about forming this new vision statement. Joe Rawlings is the superintendent, and there are some farmers and new residents that also need to be considered as people as a part of this. The places involved: there's the high school, the elementary school, and the new middle school, each separate, and the new middle school kind of thinking of it as a bridge between those two, the secondary and the primary school. And then the programs or the areas: there's the vision statement that needs to be developed. There's curriculum development that will probably stem off of that vision statement. There should be some influence of the new vision in that curriculum. And then there's the new middle school itself. That's a program, that's a group, and that will be a new community that will be formed after this vision statement is created. So the priorities here, I think there really are threefold. Uh, They need to build community relationships and morale. There are already some factions that exist due to the vote. Some of those factions have potential to grow deeper, and so all parties need a voice in this new school. Truly, everyone in the community has a stake in this process as a new school is being built and a vision for that new school is being formulated. The farmers should have a voice, the new residents should have a voice, townspeople, rural people, um, everyone should have a voice because everyone has a stake in this process. And gathering information from those stakeholders will lead to building community relations and lead to building morale. And that would be a great first step for Ms. Potter. A second priority is to develop staff cohesion. You want a statement that your entire staff can get behind. Some of these staff has not worked together, at least not in the same building. There will be some coming from a secondary school and some from a primary school that might have very, very different cultures, very different priorities, and very different ways of dealing with children. So it's important to develop staff cohesion as a part of this vision statement and make sure that we're all working towards the same goal and a goal that everyone in the building feels good about and feels like is worth pursuing. This is also a new style of leadership, or it might be a new style of leadership for these staff members. So making sure that everyone understands what will be expected of them and how they will be led in this new building is important. And then maybe most importantly, it's important to dream for future students. As we build a new school, this is a time when we really can dream. Something that we don't get to do very often in education. Sometimes we get lost in the daily grind, as you will. But whose dreams are most important? Is it the farmers? Is it the rural people? Is it the townspeople? Is it the new community members? Everyone's dreams are important here, and we really should be centering them on the students. So I think dreaming for future students might be the number one priority in my mind. So the options that I listed out, I also listed evaluation with them. I thought that was the easiest way to show that. The easiest and quickest option would be just to develop a vision statement as requested by that committee and present it. It lacks collaboration, it lacks much stakeholder input, but it is the quickest and the easiest way out, and it might alleviate some issues that might arise if you really try to push the issue of a collaborative process. A second and kind of opposite option would be to force collaboration and just to put your foot down as the new principal and refuse to lose. You could consult Superintendent Rawlings and possibly ask Helen Burke to step down as chair, kind of call in the big guns, if you will. There's the risk of alienating Burke and other teachers. There's the risk of alienating parents because you're not doing as they wish. And even if they do comply, openness will probably be limited in this scenario. There probably isn't going to be a lot of participation if that is forced. So some other less all-encompassing options would be, number one, to ask the committee to revisit their vote. This is pretty unlikely to succeed without some additional information from Ms. Potter or something else coming to light. Another option for her might be to consult stakeholders to gather information. This would be a little challenging for someone that's new to the community to go door to door or rounding up information from other stakeholders, but it might be successful in gathering some more information that could be effective in convincing the community to reconsider. There is some risk here of alienating the community members and having them get a feeling like you're going rogue. But if it brings some new information to light or helps to make her case, that could possibly be worth it. There's also the idea of a field trip, and that's used kind of loosely here. But I think there would be some value in traveling to the new school, number one, to encourage some dreaming. Asking the committee members, what do you see happening here? What do you want this new school to look like? What are some dreams that you have for this school? This could be done without phrasing it around a mission or vision, but just asking them, what do you see happening within these new walls, and what do you dream for your children there? You could also take a scenic route by some nearby farms. While there are certainly some committee members that are rural people, there are probably more that are in the newer additions, maybe recent moves to town. So taking a scenic route by some nearby farms that might not have supported building that new middle school, but are going to be paying for it fairly heavily, might be a fairly effective way to convince those committee members to gather some input from those more rural district members. You could also present some vision statements from other schools. Just finding some stock vision statements or even coming up with one on your own that might have fit the old school or that you think might fit just a generic middle school. Are these right for your school? Are these right for this new middle school? And I think with some discussion, it would probably be pretty clear that if you're going to make a vision statement, you want it to fit the school at hand and not just any generic school. Another option might be to privately contact committee members to discuss vision development. Helen certainly seems to hold sway over that group, Ms. Burke. So maybe having another discussion with her one-on-one about leadership styles and about ways that maybe that change could be enacted. You could also gather some opinions away from the group, maybe talking to the PE teacher about uh, what his dreams might be and how he thinks those might be enacted. And then just getting some input from some of the other committee members away from the pressure and the stigma that might come with sitting on an 8-person committee. That does risk politicizing that process and that committee, splitting it into factions, like the community has maybe been split into factions a little bit. So that might be kind of a risky way to go about it, or at least would need to be done very carefully. Another person that could be contacted would be Superintendent Rawlings. He certainly should be consulted in this process, but he might have some insight about how to go about this. So the choice. My plan of action, without any further information, would have 5 parts. First, I would ask for permission to lead the next meeting. Certainly, Ms. Potter asked not to chair the committee, but I think it would be important to lead, or at least to have some say in the agenda over the next meeting. So I would ask for permission from the committee to lead that. Next, I would consult at least a few stakeholders outside the community, and I would be pretty selective with the people that I would consult. I would want a pretty wide variety of opinions and of approaches. So I would certainly get some rural input. I would certainly get some more urban or suburban input, but I would want a pretty wide variety of input so I could present that to this committee. I would do this fairly quietly, and I would do it pretty intentionally, looking for the dreams and looking for the ideas that they think should be integrated into this new middle school. Then I would definitely take a field trip. I would drive with the committee, hopefully in one vehicle, drive to the new school, and we would drive through the countryside. We would take the scenic route, going past some of the rural homes that maybe the people in town don't see very often, maybe they forget about, and maybe they just don't think about how much land is out there, how much in taxes some of these people are paying in order to pay for this new middle school. We forget sometimes about people that are outside of our immediate circle, and so I think seeing that and remembering the faces that go with those homes would be important. Once we get to that new building, a quick tour, talking just a little bit about the dreams, and then asking the people on the committee, what dreams do you have for this building? What do you want it to feel like? And then what are your goals for this school? Really, what do you see as the ideal for this school? And then following that up with just some discussion, sharing those responses out within the committee, having everybody read their responses. That's a little bit different to write it down and then read it out than it is to just share verbally or discuss verbally. If you've written it out already, there's some accountability there because you're reading a written statement. You're not just asking on someone to bring something off the cuff. I would also then share my information from other stakeholders, probably the answers to those same 3 questions. What dreams does Farmer Joe have for this building? What does he want it to feel like, and what are his goals? And then businessman Bob, what are his dreams? What are his goals? What does he want it to feel like? So that we can integrate that successfully into the new vision statement. And then I would compare those dreams and goals to a set of generic vision statements, or maybe a generic vision statement that I myself had created. And I would just ask the committee, do you want a vision that matches your dreams and your goals for this school? Or do you want one that's generic and would work for just okay for any middle school? So implementation. This process probably generates some energy towards developing a mission and vision statement collaboratively, and it at least starts that process, if nothing else. I think walking around the building would probably generate a little bit of positive energy and a little bit of dreaming just by itself. So I think there's some value there. I would warn the committee members of the danger of further community split if the stakeholders are not consulted. This probably would come up in discussion with those stakeholders, but if people feel like they're being marginalized or left out in those decision-making processes, that can be really dangerous to a community. On the contrary, if people feel like they're being pulled in and their input is being asked for and they have something to contribute, uh, then a community can really blossom and come together in a really good way. This new middle school is an opportunity for that. So bringing in the community and consulting those stakeholders could really be a positive way to bring the community together. And then I would encourage some collaborative design of a school vision that involves all the stakeholders through some community meetings and that sort of thing, and that reflects the core values of the community. Those would come through as you talk with different stakeholders. And then in Ms. Potter's position, I would really be focused on her job. And her job is not entirely to lead the school, it's to carry out the vision of the community and to lead the middle school as a part of that community. So I think if you phrase that job in that way, that her job is really to carry out the vision of the community, it looks a little bit different than her job being to come in and change everything and dictate what that school should look like. So, what if it doesn't work? That's the $1 million question here. Uh, in Ms. Potter's position, there would be a ton of time that would be invested into this process. She would think a lot about the meeting and the phrasing and how she would go about things. But if it doesn't work, now what? If it doesn't work, she's gathered input on the committee priorities. They've shared their dreams with her. They've shared some goals. She's gathered additional information from stakeholders from a wide variety of people about their dreams and their goals. She's warned the committee of some potential dangers of an individual creating that statement. And so they're aware now that if they decide to have Ms. Potter go ahead and create the statement, that there might be a risk for further splitting within the community, and certainly a risk of not maximizing the potential cohesiveness that could come within the staff and within the stakeholders. But then, maybe just as importantly, if it doesn't work and Susan Potter does have to go ahead and create a vision statement for her school, she's gained some insight into the community that she'll be serving, and that will be incredibly useful as she writes that statement if she has to do so. So, just by gathering that information from those people, if it works and they can collaboratively develop a vision statement, great. That's been wonderful. If it doesn't and Potter has to come up with one on her own, she's gathered at least some of the information that she would need in order to synthesize a new statement that would still fit the values of that group. And I think that's probably the most significant way and most successful way that she could go about um, going through the very first option that I presented, which was, hey, just create a vision statement, share it out. This way, if she does have to do that, she at least can encompass some of those values. My reflection here, I do think one of the most important jobs of an administrator, beyond just running the school day to day, is to navigate those relationships and to help develop community within a school and among stakeholders. Uh, a good administrator can have a major, major impact on just the positive nature surrounding a school. And this case study provided me an opportunity to practice these skills in a relevant case, but also to reflect back on some times that I've needed to use those skills as a coach, as a teacher, as an athletic director, and times that I've seen my administrators do that well and do that not quite so well. So there's something to be learned from each experience like this one. And experiences like this as a future administrator will really be invaluable, just to put more tools in my toolbox, so to say, so that I'm prepared when that time does come. The reference is there, and thank you for watching.